Zero Foxtrot does not profess to share or promote the opinions and beliefs expressed by show host or guests. The Stay Zero podcast was created to provide a platform for servicemen and women to share their stories. Due to the nature of this podcast, sensitive topics will arise. Conversations about combat, PTSD, drug use, and other such subjects will occur. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Stay Zero podcast. I have Anthony Visciotti here with me today. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And you're a police officer, and so you specifically had some success from Craig Meyer's program.
Did.
I think that's how we linked up.
Saved my life.
Tell me about that. Like, how did that start?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go into the incident itself. So I pulled a guy over. I was doing some street level interdiction stuff, just sitting on the roadway, and see a guy come by. And, Craig's class is all about body language and things like that. So he gave me some pretty good indicators. Do
you remember what they were?
Yeah. So the one distinct thing that I remember is it was like an 80s model Caprice. And whenever he drove by me, he put his hand up like this. Well, I know that 87 Caprices don't have center consoles. So it's not like he was like resting. So that was kind of odd.
Yeah, that is odd.
And then speed changes and stuff like that. But
it's interesting that you know that about the 87 Caprice.
Yeah, it's just, I work in an urban area. Okay. So there's a lot of guys that, that's what they do. They fix up these old school cars, and there's like some really nice old school Caprices and Crown Vics and things like that. But yeah, so I pull out, I let them get up the road a little bit, and I pull out on them, and I get up, I'm in the lane next to him, but he's about, I'd say 25 yards in front of me. And he starts, we call it distancing. Mm-hmm. So he's paying too much attention to me. He starts veering off the roadway, and he tags the yellow line a little bit. I'm like, okay, so we call it distancing behavior. So I was like, and I have a violation. Light him up. He pulls over immediately. And, as I'm getting out of the car, see the cigarette. He is sucking on that thing.
Trying to calm himself down?
Yeah, trying to kind of ease.
Pacify.
His brain's starting to freak out. His body's starting to do things that he can't control. He doesn't know what's happening. So I get to talking with him. He can't look me in the eye. He keeps telegraphing. He keeps looking like this. So I know something's up, and I know where that something that's up is. It's just a matter of playing the game.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out. So
what are the restrictions on your end? Like, I have to meet these requirements in order to progress through this stop.
Right. So legally, basically, you have to have at least reasonable suspicion to stop a car that a crime has occurred, is occurring, or is about to occur.
Yeah.
Or the stronger of the two is probable cause. So a traffic violation or something of that nature. So say I stop you for running a stop sign, I can only really address the stop sign violation until I observe something or see something that allows me and gives me more suspicion to move my investigation further. So initially I stopped him for hitting the fog line. So initially I'm thinking, DUI or high or something. So I'm kind of talking to him, just kind of shooting the shit with him. Because really I'm just stalling, waiting for my backup to show up.
Oh, okay.
And so we're just chit-chatting, and asked for his insurance, his license, all that stuff. Joking around with him, like everything was cool. Everything was real cool. So my backup shows up. I'm like, hey man, hop out the car real quick. I'm gonna talk to you real quick, make sure you're good to go, and then I'm gonna get you on your way. 95% of the time, yes sir, no problem. Hop out the car. Something was different this time. And he knew that I knew that he knew that I knew. And he started asking questions. No big deal. About, I'd say 5 out of every 20, 30 times, I get some questions. Why am I getting out of the car? No problem.
Just kind of challenging the order?
Yeah, not necessarily challenging, but some people legitimately don't know. So I do try to use it as an education tool. Now, some people are just trying to, buck the system and,
Do you run into a lot of the, I don't have to do that, you don't...
like a sovereign citizen type?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten one yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't have to do that now that I'm off the street.
Do they teach y'all what to do with that shit?
Yeah, we have those First Amendment auditor guys.
Okay.
That come by and try to like,
you see them all over the
prod
internet.
at you and provoke you.
I never know if it's legit or not.
I know, dude. Like, you're like 45 and you're doing this. Like, surely you have something better you could be doing with your life. But that's neither here nor there. Sure. So anyway, guy didn't want to get out the car. I'd quote, there's Supreme Court case law that dictates, that I had reasonable suspicion to get him out of the car anyway, because I want to make sure he's not DWI. So Pennsylvania versus Mims, which is a Supreme Court case from 1977, says that we can get anyone out of the car.
Okay.
We can order anyone out of
is
a vehicle.
Any statewide?
Yeah, it's a Supreme Court.
Okay.
So anything. Now, individual states can have stricter guidelines. So I quote that to him. He's like, okay, well, let me call my wife real quick. So he's like stalling, still stalling. I'm like, man, I don't like this. Something's up. And
that's an odd excuse.
Yeah,
I need to call my wife.
Yeah,
before you step out.
Turns
of the car.
out he wasn't even married, but I found that out later. But yeah, so he didn't want to get out the car. So, and I'll show you the video whenever we're done here.
Send it to us. We can probably clip it in.
Yeah.
Maybe
Absolutely.
If you want to.
Yeah, don't bother me. It's all public record. I can't get in trouble for talking about any of it.
Okay.
As far as the facts of what happened. So my sergeant was on the left side of the car. I was on the right side talking to him. I always approach on the passenger side. It's just statistically it's safer. So that's what I like to do if I can do it. And I had a third partner. She was standing behind me. So I knew that this was going to turn into a vehicle extraction. And the reason initially that I was stalling was because Craig taught in his class, 2 versus 1 at least, 3 or more is safer.
Yeah.
Because 1-on-1, it doesn't go very well statistically. 2-on-1 is better, but 3-on-1 really overwhelms them.
You may deter them from even doing something because
it either deters them from doing that, or you have so many stimuli that it separates their attention that they can't act right. It messes with their OODA loop.
Yeah.
So I motioned my partner for her to go to the other side because I know that this is going to be a vehicle extraction. So I think I asked him probably like 9 or 10 times to get out the car. And I was kind of making fun of myself because the very last time I was like, get out the car. I'm not going to tell you again. And he just sat there and I was like, get out the car. And I told him again whenever I said I wouldn't. I was like, dang it.
Made a liar out of me.
But yeah. So one of my partners, they go to open the door and he didn't know that the door had opened because he was looking at me. Again, that goes back to separating, the stimulus everywhere. He can only pay attention to one thing at once. And so he doesn't realize he's over here talking to me and my sergeant goes to grab his arm. And so he pulls his arm away and he looks up at him. And anytime we do vehicle extractions, our unit at the time, we like to have one person that can look into the passenger side to make sure that they're not grabbing anything. So that was kind of my function in that moment. So my sergeant goes to grab him again to get him out the car, and he comes shooting out the car trying to run. And you'll see on the video, my sergeant does a beautiful 2-on-1 takedown and just takes him straight to the ground. Like, it was perfect. But as he was getting pulled out of the car, he was sitting on top of a Glock. And come to find out, it's a fully loaded Glock. It had 31 round magazine, had a Glock switch on it.
Damn.
So it's fully auto, one trigger pull, and we all would have been Swiss cheese. So he pulls it, and at the time, I can't tell what it is. I just see a black shiny object. And for me, I don't want to be like gun, and then something happens, and it's not a gun.
Shit.
I knew it was probably wasn't a phone because he had set his phone down right before we pulled him out the car. And
without
in my mind, I'm like,
ID.
all I could get out of my mouth is like, he's got something in his hand. And so I run around the back.
Good thing you didn't yell black.
right. Exactly. Yeah. So I run around the back of the car, and he's on top of my sergeant, and I can see an object in his hand still. And so I'm like, okay, well, probably not a phone. And so I try to tase him because I'd already had my taser out. Whenever he went to reach, I drew my taser, and then by the time he was gone, out the car, I was running around the back. So I run around the back, I try to tase him because he's on top of my sergeant. It doesn't work for whatever reason. I don't even know if my prongs ever hit him. I never found out. And so I run up and I just punch him as hard as I can in the face. Which kind of, I was probably, I'm a little heavier now, but I was probably like 230, 240 at the time. And so the weight, and they were on an incline. So that made us like roll further into the ditch. So we go down into the ditch and we're fighting. And the female who was with us, she was on his left side. I was on his right side, and my sergeant was behind him, trying to get his legs, trying to figure for his legs to immobilize him. This dude was probably a little taller than me, but he was pretty strong. He wasn't big, but he was strong. And he kept pushing up off the ground. And we kept trying to get him down. And at one point, he made it up to his knees, and he was still reaching. And I was like, man, this ain't good. This ain't good at all. And so, we keep shucking him back down to the ground. And so once he gets back down on the ground, I reach my hands underneath him to try to get his hands. I could feel the magazine. I felt the extended magazine, and I felt the bottom of the gun in my hand. And I was like, oh man, this is not good. And so we're fighting. I'm telling my partners like, hey, he's got a gun. And at this time, like I still had somewhat control. Like we were trying to pull him back and forth, and I kept trying to pull it out from under him. He kept sucking it back up into him. So at that time, I'm like he's trying to use this on us. And so I remember just screaming like, gun, get up. Cause I knew in my mind what was about to have to happen, and I was starting to lose control, and I was worried about him getting a shot off on them. So I was trying to tell them to get up so that if something happened, it was going to be me that caught whatever he had coming. So, cause I knew what I was about to do, but we didn't have time to talk about it or plan it out. So I just wanted them out of the way. Whatever was about to happen was up to God. So my female partner, we were all tunnel vision, you get in intense situations, it gets like that. So she didn't hear me screaming, get up. And I'm like right here in her ear. So I draw my weapon, put it right up against them, take my first shot. That gets them up. And so
she heard that, right?
Yeah, she heard that.
Yeah.
She said she couldn't hear for about 20 minutes.
I bet.
And so I take my first shot. And as I'm taking my first shot, I'm getting up. And I shoot 4 more times as I'm falling backwards. And so I fall backwards and I get back up. I kind of fall backwards and roll. So my head is like facing away from him at this time. And so I get back up and I'm coming back around because I'm getting ready to re-engage. Because at the time, as I was falling, I could see he was starting to roll over. Like he was on his stomach when I shot him. Mm-hmm. And he was starting to roll back over. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's sitting over. So I get turned around. I'm about to start re-engaging. I'm about to start firing some more. And as soon as I'm about to start shooting again, I see him. He's flat on his back like this, and he just got blood coming out of his chest. So at that time, I knew it was over, and knew he wasn't a threat no more. So I had them cover him just in case. I reloaded, and then let dispatch know what was going on, and that was kind of it. Until now that it was over, all the bureaucratic stuff starts.
What kind of, how did that go? What was the aftermath? What happens after you have an incident like that?
Yeah. So I've been involved in 3 critical incidents, and we'll get into that. 2 of them shootings, 1 of them in custody death. But first things first, you get put on departmental leave. A lot of people call it administrative leave. My department, they separate it. So administrative leave is if you like violate a policy or get arrested or something. Mm-hmm. And like they come to your house, they take all your gear, they take your gun, all that stuff. Departmental leave is if you get involved in a shooting or an in custody death, and it's like, we don't think you did anything wrong, but like you have to be off work for right now. And so put me on departmental leave.
How long does that normally last? Is it just while they investigate whatever happened? So
the state police agency in the state that I work, so my first shooting was in 2021. So just prior to my shooting, my department and the state agency had made an agreement where the state agency would investigate all of our officer involved stuff. So I was the first officer involved shooting on the department in that new phase. So like I was kind of the guinea pig for it.
Okay. So since that policy, you're the first one to have to initiate it.
So prior to that, you would maybe be off maybe 3 or 4 weeks, all the way up to like 3 months. All 3 of mine, I've been off for 6 months.
Wow. Is it just because of the slow motion of the federal or the state police?
It's not, any police agency they're short staffed. And you got to think they're the state agency, so they cover the state.
Yeah.
So you may only have 3 or 4 investigators And,
they also don't give a shit if you go back to work or not.
Yeah, I mean,
your department's like, hey, we need this guy back to work, and they're like, no, we're still investigating.
And that's good for the objectivity of it.
Sure,
they can be objective. You know, they don't have to concern themselves with personnel issues.
Yeah,
because I'm not their personnel. But you know, so I was kind of the guinea pig for that. As part of that process, as soon as it happens, once the scene's safe, they separate you from the scene. You have to go to the hospital. You have to do a drug screen, and you have to do a breathalyzer. That's for anything, any kind of incident. Like if you have a duty injury, if you get in a car crash, if you get in a shooting, anything that's like adverse
to rule out,
you know, your condition. Then they send you to do all that, and then the HR guy comes out and makes you sign your paper, putting you on departmental leave, and then you go talk to the peer team. They have like on-call peer support people. And
these other police officers?
Yeah, they're other people in the department
that have had similar experience, or
not all of them, which that's another thing.
That seems a little like that should be a requirement to at least maybe not all that experience, but maybe for each category of which someone would be put on that leave, have someone with experience.
And that's what
discuss it with them.
I was kind of getting at is like we all see traumatic things, and I think the statistics show that the average person observes about 4 traumatic events in their life. The average police officer witnesses about 400. Now, I live in a city where every year we're top 20 for violent crime rate per capita in the nation. So you can only imagine the stuff that our officers see, as opposed to, you know, a 2-4-man department with a population of 500 people.
Yeah.
You know, nothing against them, but they're not going to see the volume of things that we see.
Sure.
So yeah, like the people that I've talked to, like they usually go in teams of 2. At least one of them had been involved in whatever I was involved in. So my assumption is maybe that's something they do. I'm not on the peer team. Probably should be. It'd probably be a good thing.
Definitely now. You're a veteran.
Good thing to pursue. But yeah, that's kind of the process. And then, you know, sometimes the hardest thing is like the sitting at home and waiting and not knowing. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it is a criminal investigation. It is a homicide investigation.
Yeah.
And so even though in my heart I knew that I had done everything right, because as soon as it happened, it was so weird. I'm talking about the one that we started talking about. As soon as it happened, like I had like this overwhelming peace come over me. Like it was like God was just like, "You're good. You know, you did everything you could do. You did right, and you know, whatever happens, happens." So I felt the overwhelming peace about it in that moment. Which
I'm sure immediately you're like, "Fuck, was that okay?"
Yeah.
Check. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
So my first one, yeah. So it sounds terrible, but like it gets easier the more you get into it.
The more you do anything.
Yeah. And that's exactly.
Particularly if it's legit, it's legit. And there's no more thought to give it really than that. It's not a light thing. You don't want to be second nature with it, but yeah. And
that's with anything in life, but the sitting at home and waiting is the worst because our particular area that we work in, our district attorney, he goes out of his way to hem us up. He has a specific person. Her whole job is to investigate officer involved stuff. And I don't really get wrapped up in like conspiracy type stuff or, you know, people are out to get me. I don't like playing victim.
Do you think that that's a nefarious thing or not like a due diligence thing?
I don't want to say, but
you can say.
I'm going to tell you this little tidbit of information.
Okay.
You can take it for what it is.
Sure.
So my most recent incident that we'll get into, I have a few people that I trust that were privy to the investigation. They were privy to the details of the investigation. And they were privy to the communications between the state agency and the district attorney's office. And I had multiple people tell me that person that's assigned to officer involved things, that she was distraught that she could not charge me with something. Yeah.
Why do you think she wanted to charge you with something? What's the motive?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is people are getting caught up in the all the police brutality and all this other stuff, and
the attention that could be gained from being that headline.
Yeah, her career.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that's why she felt that way. I don't know why she felt that way.
We can speculate.
Yeah, you can speculate all you
motive.
want.
That is a motive, yeah.
But these people that told me this, I trust them and I believe them. And I believe that it happened. And so as far as the why behind it, I don't know. But they have a track record for doing that.
Do you think there's other officers who were wrongfully convicted of things because of the motive there?
No, because our district judges have been the saving grace.
That's good.
Yeah, we have.
So maybe they've tried, but
we have some fantastic district judges that are very good at their job. And even though socially they may not agree with certain things, we may have different views of not what's right and what's wrong, but just like different sides of the aisle on certain social issues. They're fair and they are great at their job, and they do it well.
That's good.
And that has been the saving grace for myself and my coworkers. It's unfortunate that we have to rely on that. Thank God we have good judges that are upholding the law.
There's a lot of cities that don't.
Yeah, and not upholding, whatever, ulterior motives. But yeah, I can't say enough about the judges that we have in the area that I work. They're fantastic.
So you got put on administrative, or not administrative, you got put on, what was it called?
Departmental leave.
Departmental leave.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see what you mean. Like, I've often thought, I didn't at the time, obviously, because I was the one deploying, but in coming home and then my buddies going back, being home's harder than being on deployment. I know what's going on deployment.
Yep.
Like, I know from mission to mission what I'm doing from day to day.
Yep.
My family didn't.
Right.
And so they're left with their imagination, which is far worse. Yeah. And the media, and every time something happens and their friends text them, have you heard from Zach? Is he okay? I heard a thing happened. It's like, well, fuck.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
No, I haven't heard from him today. I don't know. And so, yeah, man, sitting home just with your mind. How did you manage that? How did you pacify?
Man, prayed a lot.
Okay.
Went to the gym. I'm a spiritual guy,
Yeah. I'm
a born again Christian, and I have a strong foundation in that. And actually, one of the best compliments I ever received, it was a guy of mine that was a buddy of mine that was in our unit, and he's actually a detective with me now. But at the time of my second shooting, which is the one we were just talking about, I was pretty fine. Like, I was good. And another person that was involved, I mean, they were fine, but like, we were kind of concerned about like how they're gonna react to it, how they're gonna handle it. So one of the
Were all of the officers there placed on departmental leave? So even the ones who didn't have to fire?
Yeah, all three of us, because they had to prove that they didn't fire their guns.
I think that'd be pretty easy, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, they should have never been put off, I don't think, but maybe for a couple weeks.
Smell it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It ain't like y'all
scratch and
train much. Like,
yeah. And so, so we were kind of concerned about this one officer, and so he told me, he was like, "Man, I'm not worried about you because I know your faith." So that was probably one of the biggest compliments I've ever received. But yeah, so that's one way I handled it. At the time that one happened, I had been married for July to April. Yeah, so I had been married for 9 months, and she had found out 4 weeks prior that she was pregnant. So I'm calling her, and I mean, you can't get stressed out with a 4-week-old baby in your tummy. So she's like freaking out. I'm like, babe, you've got to relax. Like, I'm fine. And in her mind, oh, he's going to prison and all this, because 2 months prior to that, we had a very high profile shooting. And
within the department?
Yeah.
Not with you though?
No, not with me. No. The department had a very high profile shooting. It's still in the court, in the legal system, so I'm not going to get too far into it. He ended up getting indicted and charged with a homicide charge. And so, and that was 2.5 months prior to mine. And so that's the first thing in her mind.
So there's still momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only is there momentum in her brain, but there's also momentum with all these people who think they're activists in the public. Because the way it works where I'm at, the citizens are innocent until proven guilty. We're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And I understand that we're held to a higher standard. 100% believe in that. I think we should be. But I still think we should be reserved our right to be presumed innocent until guilty. Now, they're activists. It's what they do. But sometimes I think it's a lot of grasping at straws.
Oh, for sure.
And just wanting something to be something that it's not.
Nobody wants to solve the problem less than a career activist.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They ain't got nothing to do.
Exactly. So it's like, but I mean, there were people, because we have a great intel unit that they know what's going on social media. They keep feelers out. They're linked up with intelligence all around the region. So there were people on Facebook talking about, trying to come find me where I live and all that stuff. Yeah. And of course, my wife's freaking out. And have you ever seen that bit where Tim Kennedy's talking about how he got a call that ISIS was
and he's
trying to hire someone?
Here's my address. I'll kill everybody. Yeah.
But whenever he was like, that's fantastic. Like, I felt the same way.
Really?
Yes, because my wife's freaking out. But I'm like, you're going to come onto my turf and my territory? And the jurisdiction that I live in is different from the jurisdiction I work in. And the jurisdiction I live in is very pro defending yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come what may, but
it's not a great plan.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're going to go hunt down the guy that already shot somebody.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not a bright idea.
Before the investigation and just, implement our own street justice.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just a lot of nonsense, a lot of echo chamber type stuff.
Sure.
They're just screaming and hollering. But I mean, like I said, I work in a pretty big city, and when something high profile like that happens and there's only 15 people out in front of the police station protesting, it's a pretty good indication like it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
When the George Floyd incident happened, that was a whole country away, way up in Minnesota. We're on the other side of the country, and we had big marches and protests that I worked myself.
From that?
Yeah. Wow. So like, that's when you know that, something's actually wrong versus just wanting a fake public outcry.
Just looking for something.
Yeah, just looking for something.
Yeah.
And so, I coped with it the best anyone could. But the longer time goes on, the longer I feel nothing for the person whose life ended. And it sounds callous. It sounds, whatever. It sounds cold. But
do you think that's a defense mechanism, or do you have like a wall that you've kind of put up in order to do your job?
Maybe
those are the same thing.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. But
like a little bit of gallows humor.
Yeah, it's like, maybe. I mean, there's certainly nothing humorous about,
sure,
taking another life.
There isn't, but when you're involved in that trauma all of the time, it is very common and normal to be desensitized to it. And within your own circle, you can make jokes about it.
Oh yeah, military. I'd say military and law enforcement.
We all do it,
and
man.
Nurses, the sickest senses of humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's a way to cope. For sure.
Yeah. I guess as a defense mechanism, I don't know, because I don't feel like I'm defending myself from anything. It's not like someone who's in a court of law trying to like.
Well, I mean, what would be the alternative, right? The alternative would be to feel remorse or to feel shame for that guy's life, maybe what he went through that led him to that point. And that's where it can get heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And that isn't a fun emotion to feel. Yeah. And so, I could certainly see where feeling nothing would almost be necessary to continue.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because other eyes will be watching this.
Sure.
I'm remorseful for what happened, but I'm not remorseful for the part that I played in it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I was doing my job. There's some guys on the department that, they say when you're good at finding bad guys, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah. Tell me about that statistic, because we talked about that a lot. It's like once a guy is involved in a shooting, they're more likely to be involved in others. Yeah. And you can look at that surface level and be like, that dude's just out looking to do stuff. And
right.
It's like, well,
yeah.
That guy is also a proactive officer.
Yeah. So that's kind of the framing of my theory on it is, like I said, I don't really know the exact numbers, but I have read that an officer that's involved in one shooting is exponentially more likely to be involved in another.
Yeah.
My theory on it is it kind of has to do with the kind of officer you are. So, like, of all the people, because we have anywhere between like maybe 2 to 5 officer involved shootings a year, roughly. I don't think we had any last year, which is good.
Yeah.
Very good. But my theory is that it's the kind of officer you are. So if you're a proactive officer that's looking for criminals, you're not looking for violations and hope you get lucky. You're looking for people that are committing crimes, that are victimizing people, that are terrorizing their communities. You do it long enough, you're going to get good enough at it. You're going to come across a lot of bad people a lot of the time.
I think particularly if you're using Craig Meyer's eyes, you know what I mean? Like, where you're not just looking for, the guy kind of swerved into the line. Let me see if he's drunk. It's like, that dude gave a lot more tails than that, right? Yep. Swerving the line could be changing the radio.
Yeah.
But all of the other signs are privy of someone with a background of criminal behavior and something to hide and causing this visceral response where he can't sit still. And if you're finding those motherfuckers just because he swerved on a line as opposed to the guy changing the radio, like, and I think you have a really good point in that if you're looking for it, you're going to find it.
Yep. And
you won't.
I was kind of chuckling because you asked Craig whenever you had him on if it feels like a superpower, and he kind of downplayed it. It 100% feels like a superpower because there's times, and he teaches this in his class. One of the techniques, whenever you start seeing like fight or flight indicators, one of the things that sometimes works is you call it out. Be like, hey, I see you're about to run. You're doing this, this, and this. I've had people just be like, all right, I'm done. Because again, they know that you know.
What number am I thinking?
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean that class, and again, I had taken it, I think like 3 or 4
Tell
days.
everybody what it's called again and where they could find that, because that is very useful.
Yeah, so it's called Mastering Proactive Policing for Patrol, I believe. And Craig, he now works for Blue to Gold.
Okay.
I believe that's the name of the training company. And I think that's his only class right now. However, he's brilliant. He could probably teach some other classes, but that is his bread and butter. He's good at it. And one thing I appreciate about his class is that a lot of these classes you go to around the nation, they're showing other people's videos and all that stuff. Craig only shows his own stuff whenever he's trying to teach the point. He'll show other videos to show the point. But if he's teaching the point, he's going to show you his stuff. So that kind of proves it's like, hey, I'm out here doing it. I'm not just desk jockeying, pushing paper, trying to
he's switched
put this on you. Yeah.
He's a bright guy.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And so I forget, we kind of sidelined there for a minute. So you worked through the bureaucracy, the waiting time. And so how long until you got back on the force, and what's the perception when you come back to work?
So as far like publicly or like
either one within the department, is it like, oh, fucking, you're back, great, good to see you?
I mean, it's pretty low key. I mean, so this kind of threw another layer into this situation. So the guy that I shot, I work with his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law is an officer. And kind of going back to...
What was the family's take? Did you get a chance to talk to him?
Yeah, so he called me the day after it happened. Really? He was like, I don't want to reveal too much about a conversation because plenty of his family wants me dead.
Really?
But, he said, he was basically like, man, not mad at you, I know how you operate. I know how you work. I know you're not out here doing crooked stuff. Like, if I had to guess, you did what you had to do, kind of thing. So I really appreciated that because
probably a hard phone call to make.
Yeah, and especially with the rest of his family, wanting me, under the jail.
But as I talk shit about you to my family, just know that I got to do that.
Yeah, and what's crazy to me is you see all this outroar whenever a police officer kills a citizen, and no one deserves to die because of their criminal history. If someone dies because of their actions, that's different. It is what it is. No one deserves to die because of their criminal history. However, your history and your behavior is the biggest indicator of how you're going to behave in the future.
Sure.
And so he had a lengthy history. And you see this all around the nation. The family acts like he was just an altar boy, that he was on his way to midnight mass, that he was serving in the church, serving his community. They want to ignore the fact that he was trafficking and selling drugs. And I'm like, this, it's just asinine to me.
Well, the first story is the one people believe. And
right.
Then it's on you to disprove that he was the altar boy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also this, nobody wants to talk shit about the dead guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was part of the reason that I wanted my kid to know that I sucked at everything.
Right.
In case I got killed overseas or whatever. Right. It's no one's going to tell him that it was hard to do a lot of the stuff that I did. I didn't do it all well. But no one's going to tell him that.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah.
And I get it. I do empathize with his family,
mm-hmm.
but just the grandstanding and acting like, he was out there doing right is just,
there's a lot
insane.
Of motive potential there, because if they can sue the city, they can also make a lot of money.
And they're looking ahead to, okay, if we don't have him, what kind of money can we make? And
which is a sad, and it's a not a nice accusation to make, but it is in the mix. Right?
Oh yeah,
it's there.
And I'm just speaking generally.
Totally,
you see it a lot.
You do.
So I heard a story because our guys had actually arrested him a few times. And I'm not talking about personal use, street level dealing. He was moving weight.
What kind of drugs do you know?
As far as I know, it was cocaine, meth, and I think he kind of dabbled in weed, but cocaine and meth were really his money makers, which those are the money makers for any drug dealer around the nation. That's not really distinct to our area. But those are his money makers. And so about a year prior to our interaction, our narcotics guys had hit his house, and SWAT tactics. They break and rake the windows, get a gun in the window, and he told me, as the SWAT officers getting the gun in the window, same dude is reaching for an AR in the corner.
How did he survive that?
Because he saw the SWAT dude and he knew he was dead to rights. Because a rifle's a little harder to get situated and get a shot on target than a handgun. So, when you're dealing with
easier to ID.
Yeah, easier to ID. Yeah. You have a little bit more reaction time.
Mm-hmm.
So our SWAT guys had him dead to rights. And I had been told by another family member of his that I'm not really big into all the manifesting and all that kind of stuff, but he had made a comment to one of his family members that he speculated that the way he was going to die was shooting out with the police.
Well,
and so I think that plays into why I don't feel bad.
Sure. I mean, you certainly don't have to.
Right.
And as far as feeling bad, I've got engagements that I don't even think about. And then I've got others that I'm like, I don't know, maybe they would have been friends in a different world,
different life.
Yeah. Because honestly, if I had been born in Iraq and some country came in, I'd have been doing all the same shit.
Yeah.
Because that's just warriors are warriors everywhere we are. We're going to fight who you point us at.
Exactly.
And so, and it can be good to look at it in that way.
Yeah. But once I came back to work, having that relationship being okay with my coworker was cool. I mean, we worked together whenever I work on patrol, whenever I work higher backs, we work together. I have no doubt that if, you know, he had to lay down his life for me, he'd do it. So I have faith in that. But so I get back to work, you know, I mean, I'm happy to be back. I'm right back on street crimes unit. Because that's what I was on at the time of the shooting. They put me right back on it. And I'd actually made a couple comments to some supervisors, like, you know, is this the best idea? Like, should I lay down for a little bit? And they're like, nah. It's like, you're good. Because I mean, I was good. Like, I was ready to go, but I'm like, for y'all's sake,
totally.
Like, do you want me somewhere else to where I'm not gonna possibly get involved in something else and give more bad publicity?
Sure. At the end of the day, right or wrong, if it's repeatedly you, people are going to start questioning, right? And so this is a valid question.
Yeah, I mean,
they were confident.
Yeah. And so they made the decision to keep me on the team.
You've had some others too, though, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened with those?
So I'll get back to the first one because we
started in the middle, right?
Yeah, we have a good segue into the next one. So I was back I came back in April. I came back at the beginning of October of 2023 is when I came back to work. So November of 2023, we have another officer involved shooting. And I was on my way to an extra job, and I heard it go out, so I head there. Well, one of these activists, she's on scene. She sees me, and I'm like trying to talk to witnesses. She gets out her bullhorn, and she's like, "That's the officer that killed that so-and-so boy," like saying his name. "That's the officer that killed that boy, and blah, blah, blah. Y'all don't need to be talking to him. He'll kill you too." That type of crap, just like ignorant. Now, like, she's a piece of work. Like, even the other activists in the area don't like her. If that kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, I just kind of chuckled it off. But emotions were already high on scene, and so I didn't leave because I was like scared of her or worried about her. Because like
your presence there wasn't helping.
Yeah, I'm not worried about her, but I didn't want things to escalate to where someone else, another one of my coworkers, got affected. So I just went to the other side of the scene, and it was a big scene because it was like a foot chase to another area of the neighborhood. Like, it was a whole thing. So that happened the beginning of November. So December, the end of the year, holidays, always a spike in property crime. It's probably a trend nationwide. I know for sure it is for us. So Christmas time comes around. It was the beginning of December. We get an assignment for a neighborhood. We've been having a lot of burglaries. So like, hey, let's get out here, beat the streets. Let's try to find some people that are breaking into stuff. So I'm driving down a main thoroughfare through that area of the city on one night. See a dude on a bike. He's coming out of the neighborhood. He's got a hoodie on. It's like 55 degrees, 60 degrees. It's not that bad. I mean, I'd probably have a hoodie on too, so there's nothing suspicious about him wearing a hoodie. So let me clear that up. So he's coming out the neighborhood, he's got his hood on, and he turns and starts riding north on the sidewalk. Well, I have my violations because you can't ride a bike on the sidewalk and you have to have lights on your bike. So those are city ordinances. So that's my probable cause. But I was like, let me kind of see how he behaves. Back to the behavior. So I'm going south. I'm going the opposite way, and I look at my rear view. And he's doing this every few seconds. He's rubbernecking. So I'm like, yeah, I think this is something. He's up to something, or you know, he's got a warrant. Something's going on. Whip a U-turn, blip my lights. Like, hey man, pull over real quick. Let me talk to you. And he's like acting like he can't hear me, and I'm like talking to him out the side of the window. And I'm like, bro, pull over. And he's like, I'm just going to pull up. I'm going to go right up here. Well, this is like 200 yards of fence. It's a school, and it's 200 yards of fence. Like, there's no better place to stop. So I look at him, and he gives me that look. And I'm like, all right, it's go time. So I pull up ahead of him, and I throw my car up on the sidewalk. And, he starts taking off pedaling. So I pull up, and I try to cut him off. But you can't, I didn't want to, smush him up against the fence because they have to, if they're in a vehicle or on some kind of means of transportation other than their feet.
You can't just run the guy over.
Yeah, you can't just run him over without justification for lethal force. So he kind of squirts through my bumper in the fence. And I'm chasing him down the sidewalk. And the first thing I noticed was that when we were running, his left arm was swinging freely. His right arm was buried in his pocket. So this is 2 months after I came back to work. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, yeah. So I'm like, show me your hands. And he wouldn't pull them out. He wouldn't pull it out. And so we get to a parking lot, or we kind of it's like an entrance to a library. So he kind of runs across there, and as he's getting there, he had a backpack on this whole time. So he takes his hand out of that pocket to shed the backpack. He sheds the backpack and goes right back to the pocket. I'm like, man, I don't like this at all. So I think he thought that he was further away from me than he was, because at the time that he shed the backpack, I was probably from me to that chair. I was close to him. I think he may have thought that I was further away, because there's a giant oak tree, probably like 10 feet around, or probably like 15 feet around, this big oak tree. And he like jumps behind it and squats down, and his hand's still in his pocket. So I see him jump behind it, and I'm like, shoot. And I had already had my taser out, so I just I pan the tree. I cut the pie around the tree until I see him, and I wasn't going to take no chances. I tased him. Deploy my taser. He kind of like falls back against the tree, but he still got his hand in his pocket. I'm like, show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands. And he kept it in the pocket. So I gave him another 5 seconds. And then by that time, I could hear my partners coming. And
he just eating that, or like what's his response to the taser?
He's locking up, but he's not. So whenever you tase somebody, you tase them, you have a reason to tase them. You tase them. Once the cycle is over, you got to give him an opportunity to comply. Mm-hmm. He was not doing that at the time.
How long of an opportunity?
I mean, it has to be enough. Like, I can't be like holding down my trigger, like, show me your hand. Like, because it's very rare that people can fight through that unless they're high on something, or they've had training. Like, I know some military guys, they like specifically trained to be able to fight through that stuff.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would.
Yeah. And so I gave him the second round. And by that time, a partner show up, and I don't remember how he ended up. So at some point, all three of us went hands on with him, trying to cuff him. And I'm on his. This kind of goes back to what happened a few months before. I'm on his right side. A buddy of mine is on his left side, and my lieutenant's on his legs. And I'm like, man, this does not feel good, because it's the exact same scenario.
Oh yeah.
So what I did, keeping that in mind, I dug my hands. I was slowly digging my hands up his forearm, and I felt that his hand was empty. And I was like, thank God. Pull his hand out, get it cuffed. He's locked up. We can't get his second hand. And so we eventually get it out, no problem. Get him cuffed, roll him over. Dude's coding.
He's what?
He's coding. He's not breathing.
Wow.
No pulse, not breathing. Like it happened that fast.
Wow. From what do you think?
So from what I heard from bits and pieces of the investigation was that, from what I was told, again, I can't verify any of this, but the people that told me, I trust what they say. He was a narcotics user, specifically crack. That enlarges your heart. It affects your heart in a negative way. And I guess some kind of interaction with that just kind of made something go bad. But I mean,
so he was having a heart attack, dude.
Basically, yeah. The coroner ended up ruling it excited delirium, which
he would have had to have been high or something at the time, right?
Yeah. So I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't know what his toxicology said. I was told his toxicology report was off the wall, just insane. Initially, my theory was that he had like ingested something while he was running, but like he wouldn't have passed that quick. It wouldn't have been that fast.
Right.
I mean, we did CPR.
How old was he?
33.
Oh, yeah.
Or 32, 33. He was the same age as the guy from a few months prior, actually.
Wow.
And my initial theory was that he had ingested something, but it wouldn't have happened that fast. So I think, again, I'm not a doctor, but I think what happened is that, your heart rate's already high when you use drugs because your heart's like working overtime. Mm-hmm. We sprinted about 100 yards probably, and he wasn't in great shape. Like his adrenaline was just pumping. And so I think once that taser hit him, his heart rate was probably through the roof. And I think some kind of mixture of that with whatever concoction was in his blood, or possibly in his blood, I think his body just didn't agree with it. And like I said, it happened so fast, and we roll him over and he's unresponsive. And after the fact, I was told, you know, that he had, on one of the body cams, like he was saying something about he couldn't breathe. Like, I never heard that. And I mean, it wouldn't have changed how we responded, because we have people that say they can't breathe all the time just to try to get a tactical advantage against us and things like that. So it would
problem with lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I can't believe you.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have changed my response.
And you're talking to me, which makes me think that you can breathe.
Yeah. And the reason that I couldn't hear it is because it was a very faint, like, I can't breathe. And his head was turned to the other side. That's why I couldn't hear him.
Sure.
So that's kind of my theory on what happened with that.
Was it a similar departmental
same
leave?
Yeah.
All of the stuff again?
Yeah, same thing.
What was that prosecutor's effort this time?
So that was the one that I was telling you, where she was very upset that she could not hammer me. Yeah, she was upset from what I was told. But it was this.
How would they have pinned that on you?
They can't.
Multiple officers involved. You are the one that made contact, right?
They can't. Try as they might, they can't. Because, like I said, we've got good judges, and the legal system, you know, generally does what's right and what's wrong. They'd be hard pressed to be able to prosecute me for something like that.
Yeah. Talk to me about some of the other stuff that you've witnessed and seen that wasn't so great.
Yeah.
And issues with that, because I mean, you've been very blessed to have been protected from a nefarious effort, right? But there are cops out there that do some fucked up shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And why aren't they being held accountable, as opposed to the efforts made for something like what you had to go through and what you were forced to do?
Yeah.
A great effort to try to fuck you or fry you over that, or make an example, or use you as a rung in the ladder of their career, when there's very blatant other things that are being ignored.
Right. I think there's a misconception that, like, cops just run rampant and are, like, never held accountable for things. And in our instance, where we're at, because the DA's office is like that, the ones that are doing messed up stuff, they do get held accountable, because they try to throw all of us to the wolves. So that's the one, I guess you could say, not positive, because I hate to see anyone get in trouble or lose their career. But, you know, from that standpoint, that's the only maybe silver lining, is that people who are doing things wrong are being held accountable. And I'm not talking about, like, killing someone or beating someone half to death. Any kind of, you know, improper
without that accountability, it does just turn into y'all are the gang with the guns, and nobody else is, right?
And it's really hard, because, you know, and I'm gonna get into this in a second, but it's a hard line to walk, because I'm out there trying to do right by people, by the citizens. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I haven't made mistakes. But I'm out there trying my best to do right by citizens. And so, but you still have citizens that are, you know, saying, oh, you ain't doing X, Y, and Z, and you're racist and all this stuff and all that crap. And then on the flip side, you have officers, and it's not a lot. There's a misconception that, like, there's just a ton of cops, like, just out, like, doing dirty stuff. Like, it's not a lot. Like, I think we've really, even in the time that I've been an officer, I've been a cop for 6 years. And even I've seen progression from when I started to now. You know, the very few that are doing stuff like that, they know who they can and can't do it around. And that's a step in the right direction.
Sure.
Because before, it was, you can do it out in the open and I'm not going to be held accountable for it. And, you know, I had an incident, and I've kind of had some negative effects on my career since it happened. But it was my second month. It was like my second or third month in field training. And me and my training officer are sitting at a gas station. Homeless dude wobbles up. He's like, hey, I just got robbed. Remember, he told me the exact dollar amount, the exact denomination. So my first thing is, like, he seemed kind of off. Like, not all homeless people are, like, crazy or off, but he seemed off in addition to being homeless.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at my training officer, and he's like, just entertain him. Like, it'll be good for training. I'm like, cool, no problem. So I get all his information. I put a good description out on the radio of the guy. A few minutes later, another officer keys up. Hey, I've got him over. I've got a guy matching that description on a bike. He's not stopping. So we were a couple minutes away from him. And so we hop in the car, finish getting the guy's info, hop in the car, go try to find him. Well, the officer that was chasing him, he ended up getting him behind a house, had him at gunpoint behind a house. But when we got there, we couldn't find him and he wasn't answering the radio. I think his radio was down. So we were hollering like, where are you at? Like kind of old school style. He's like, I'm back here. So we run back there and I run back there right next to my training officer, and the third officer that had found him, he's got him at gunpoint. He's laying out on the concrete, like literally just chilling, just waiting. I kid you not, my training officer takes a running start like he's Adam Vinatieri and just field goal kicks this dude in the head, just out of nowhere. And like in my mind, like in my heart, I knew like, okay, like that didn't seem right. But also keep in mind, I'm a 2-3 month officer straight out of the academy. I don't know how this stuff works. They can teach you all the laws and policies, you know, in the academy that they want. It's not going to click until you get out there and do it. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that didn't seem right. But again, I'm a 2nd or 3rd month officer. Like I'm scared. I'm trying to mind my P's and Q's, trying to mind my business, you know.
You have a reputation in the department too. You're trying to figure it out. Like, is this really what you guys do?
And so, so I didn't say nothing. And so, let's say a week or two later, I get a call from a higher ranking officer in our department, and he was basically a courtesy call, like, "Hey, I know you were there during this incident. I'm just want to give you a heads up that something's coming down the pipe about this." And you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Cool, bye. It's one of those types of phone calls. And so I didn't know when it was going to happen. I just knew it was happening at some point. And so I'm at work one day. They call me up. I'm thinking, you know, I'm just going to go to internal affairs. Like, they'll ask me about it, blah, blah, blah. No, like I got pulled into our homicide or crimes against persons office, being interviewed as a witness in a criminal investigation.
Okay.
And so I told the truth. Simple as that. I told the exact truth about what happened. Because again,
how did they receive it?
So there were 2 guys interviewing me. One of them, we still talk to this day. He tells me, you know, I respect you for, you know, telling the truth and having integrity in that situation. And then the second guy, he's kind of been a little more complicated. So unbeknownst to me at the time, this was kind of stuff I heard through the grapevine. So after the interview happened, I started hearing, oh, you know, people are starting to say you're a snitch, like you're a rat, you know, you're out trying to get officers in trouble, blase, blase, blase. So I'm like, man, what's the deal? So I slowly started gathering intel on what's going on. So
you're learning the culture, right?
And I'm learning a lot about the culture and the people that I work with and who's going to get me in trouble and who's going to, you know, take care of me. And so I started learning, you know, this guy was going around saying all this about me. And, I mean, it was just, I thought it was bizarre. And, you know, he was on the SWAT team. He's one of those guys, you know, my way or the highway. Like, you know, like the bully, like you bully people so much, but then like the first time someone says anything negative to you, you throw a fit. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's had an issue with me ever since. Told me that I didn't have integrity for telling the truth.
That's ironic.
I was like, well, that's hilarious. And he's higher ranking than me. So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, we have, where I work, we have civil service board and we have phenomenal civil service protections, but regardless of your civil service protections, there's politics involved. And so, you know, I had multiple, again, this is all stuff that people have told me, but it's people that I trust. And multiple people have heard it come out of his mouth that he's going to go out of his way to, make my career as miserable as he can while he's still around. Huh. And he's like way higher ranking than me, like a couple decades at least. Wow. And so I'm like, but again, I mean,
and so like, how does that not get picked up by the prosecutor that wants deeply to make her career on the backs of?
So the officer that was involved in it, he did end up, because I told the truth about what happened, he ended up getting prosecuted. Okay. Part of his plea deal was resigning in lieu of termination. So, I mean, it was taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. How long did that take?
A couple months maybe. Like, it was pretty swift.
Okay.
Because when they know it's one that they can get,
you're gonna hammer it for sure.
They're gonna go quick. But I guess that was really my first glimpse into like, okay, like not everyone is out here. Like there's a lot of people out here. Not a lot. Sorry, let me rephrase that because that's definitely not true. There's some people out here that really want to play in the gray area and even sometimes step into the no-go zone. I was like, that was kind of my first glimpse into like, because urban policing, it's grimy, it's nasty. I mean,
a lot of potential for corruption.
Yeah, it does. And
you have the power.
And
power corrupts.
This isn't me saying this. This is, several pundits, I guess you could say, saying this. But like, where I work has a reputation for being corrupt. Not the department, but the city.
Really?
Yeah. And so
most big cities are.
Yeah, and it's a big city thing. Like it's not specific to where I work. It's any big city because I work in a big city. And it's any big city, you're going to have that type of stuff. And a lot of it boils down to who has dirt on who. And I mean, it's like that. And don't get me wrong, like there are times out on the street, like there are people that earn an ass whooping. 1,000%. There are people that earn what they get. 1,000,000%. But on the flip side, it's so cliche, but with great power comes great responsibility. One thing they told us in the academy was that, you are the only people in the nation, law enforcement officers are the only people in the nation that have the right to take someone's freedom away. And with that responsibility, you have to be very careful and you have to know what you're doing. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And you have to be able to be confident in explaining that and articulating that and not just going out there wanting to take people to jail.
You owe it to the community.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to step into that role and they're going to give you that power, you owe it to them to take it seriously and to treat it that way.
Yeah. And where the city that I work in particular, the civil rights record of, leaders in the city, like the police department in the city is not the best. And it's stuff that the department has been working on for years and years and years. And I'm not talking about like recently, I'm talking like stuff back in the 60s whenever the civil rights movement was going on.
Yeah.
But so there are people that are still alive that experience that and you can't fault them for, how their trauma manifests itself.
Sure.
But at the same time, I mean,
hard to progress past things if
objectivity is a very important thing. And being able to look at something objectively and be like, this is a fact, this is opinion, this is unfounded, whatever. And it's hard for people to do that when they have a preconceived notion.
Sure.
And I mean, even with the taser, like the in custody death that I had, because of my past of having been involved in 2 shootings, people took it and run with it. And you have these, again, the wannabe activists that were going out saying, oh, he's already killed 4 or 5 black people in 2 years, but just like saying stuff that's completely untrue. And again, people take that and run with it because they're like, oh, this person's an activist. Like they're trying to do what's right. When in reality, like most of them are doing it for $1 and to get and clout chasing. And it's unfortunate that it's like that because I think there's a lot of, we'll say like BLM, for example. I think the organization is a fraud, but I think the movement is I think it's a noble cause.
There's a lot that's come out about what they've done with the money.
Actually, one of the founders' houses burned down in California. Like, you probably got like 6 more. Like,
but blew most of that money, and in no way was for what it was intended.
Yeah, and it wasn't turned over to these programs. It wasn't turned over to these organizations. It was lining the pockets of a few people, and so that's why I say the organization is a fraud. As a movement, I think
don't seem to hear much about it anymore, and that's probably why. Right?
Yeah, and
if you don't rely on facts and objectivity, you lose that all credibility. Right. And you might get 1 or 2 cases every once in a while that pop up that people are like, okay, yeah, that one's legit.
Yeah,
but you wear out your credibility between them, trying to grasp at anything that you can make fit the narrative.
And that's one of my big things is like, the cause is noble, but the people that the organization chooses to be their martyrs and their pariahs, that's where the problem lies. You got, we can talk all day, George Floyd, he can be a poster child for that. Breonna Taylor, she can be a poster child for that. The girl up in Illinois that was holding the pot of boiling water that got shot by a deputy up there, she can be a poster child for that. But then you have your Alton Sterlings, your Michael Browns, these people that, one of them was actively trying to take an officer's firearm. The other one was trying to pull a firearm for several minutes while wrestling with officers. And you want to pretend like I just got to sit there and take it? Like, no. And again, what the cause is noble, but the execution of the movement by the organization, I think, has done more to harm what their stated goal is than to help.
It's definitely increased animosity between police officers in those communities for sure, which then you end up with the citizen that wants to just challenge anything. I'm a sovereign citizen. You can't fuck with me.
And it makes our job more dangerous on several fronts, because you have people that don't trust us. They want to be hostile towards us
and believe that you're out hunting.
Yeah. But then you have have you heard of the Ferguson effect? So Michael Brown was the guy. He was the young man that got killed in Ferguson, Missouri.
Darren Wilson.
I believe, I think it was like 2016, 2015,
like that,
2016.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But that was kind of the kickoff of like everything. And the Ferguson effect,
which is crazy because what he did was insane.
Right, yeah,
fighting with the officer and
trying to take his gun. I mean, they found his DNA on the officer's like all over the officer's holster. But the Ferguson effect is basically where officers are so worried about public outcry like that they're hesitating.
Hell yeah.
There was a case that came out, and they did research studies on it, specifically about the Ferguson effect. I believe it was in Jackson, Mississippi. There were 2 police officers. And I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking what they did or why they did it or anything like that, because neither of them are here to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they were killed. But if we don't use these tragedies to make our job safer, then they died for nothing. And basically what happened was, several objective use of force people have watched that video and been like, they could have taken care of this threat sooner, basically. And I see it a lot. I work with people who they're like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want to do X, Y, or Z. And I mean, the way that I look at it, I'm like, look, if the law says that you're good, you're good. I mean, using force is a nasty thing. It's
being right can still cost you everything.
Yeah.
I don't think Darren Wilson's a cop anymore.
He's not. Look at Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, he's not a cop, but similar situation.
Being right will still cost you everything.
And that's what I
can.
Yeah. And sometimes even police, I'll just speak on police leadership in general, particularly big urban areas. And this isn't to, because people will see this and they're going to know where I work. And I'm sure leaders in my department will watch clips of this. I'm cool with that. So I'm just speaking police leadership in general, but I have very healthy disagreements with some people in my leadership in my department. We're respectful. We talk about things, but I've had very healthy disagreements with them about things. And one of those things, and it's not just where I work, but I do think it affects big cities more, is this goes back to doing what's right. If it's right and it's convenient, fantastic. Everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
If it's right and it's inconvenient, and if what you did was right, but there's going to be some kind of public backlash and some kind of political negative, you're still going to get hammered for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks.
And so, you know, I look at the police situation, the PR situation, being a veteran, you know, when I got out, that was initially like, where are you going to go be a cop? Like,
right.
What the fuck else am I going to do?
You do have a lot of military guys.
Totally. And I was like, I can't. My dad was a cop for a long time, and then a judge. And so I grew up in that. And I was like, I've already experienced that. I want to experience something else. I went the fire direction instead.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And so how do you turn that PR cycle around? Because as it gets worse, less and less people want to be cops.
Yeah.
And so then the pool of people to pick from gets smaller and smaller. And so the standard goes lower and lower because you have to then fill those seats with somebody.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is to drop the standard. And then you get people that have a lower standard that really probably shouldn't be there. And then they fuck up. And then it gets worse. And then less people. And then it gets worse. And then, you know what I mean? Like you have this negative cycle of coming down where... How the fuck do you turn that back around? Because they're overworked, the departments are understaffed, they're underpaid, particularly, I mean, with overtime and with all the stuff that they're having to do. And then Austin like took away overtime for a while. A lot of these officers didn't make a whole lot of money. They were living off their overtime. Yep. And then you take that shit away and half the department leaves. I think Austin was like 800 officers short of what they should have for their population. Do you have a solution? Do you have a theory on how that can be turned around? Is this just what the media produces because the stories sell?
Do you know who Grady Judd is?
Grady Judd? No, I don't.
He is the Polk County, Florida sheriff.
Okay.
In Polk County, Florida. In my mind, he is the standard for police leadership.
Okay.
Whenever we get done, I want you to go look at like best of Grady Judd.
Okay.
He's phenomenal because he does not play when it comes to criminal activity in his county. He says, if you come to this county, we are going to hunt you down. We're going to find you. You know, and he says some inflammatory things in his press that some people find inflammatory. You know, he says stuff like, if you shoot at us, we're going to shoot you back, and we're going to shoot you a lot. He had one press conference where he said they shot at a dude like 60-something times. And they're like, why did you shoot at him 68 times? He's like, oh, my deputies ran out of bullets.
I think I do know who you're talking about. I've seen that clip.
But conversely, he holds his deputies accountable.
I see. That's the thing. Like
when they screw up, your face is getting put on the news. You're getting fired. You know, you're losing your job if you're doing things that are just completely nefarious and that you're losing the trust of the community. And it's a joint effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like in our situation, our police chief is appointed by the mayor and has to be like voted on in the city council or the aldermen, whoever do that. And so it's like,
what does the city council know about the duties of a police chief?
Not a thing besides what's on a piece of paper. Thankfully on our city council, we have a one of them's he does part-time work, and then another one of them, he's retired from our agency.
Okay.
And so yeah.
So you have a political arm that just controls the police chief.
It's the political split that is not in the police's favor.
Mm.
And you know, I will say, I mean, generally, like you think of like when you're thinking of politics, you think pro-police is right, and anti-police is left. We do have a lot of people. We have a couple people on our city council that are on the left side of social issues that really do want some kind of like change and positivity and some kind of good, you know, to come out of, you know, our police department and to really build it up to be what it is. The problem, I think, and this is a nationwide problem. This isn't just my agency. I think the problem is that we're too worried about the way things look, and we're not worried enough about the reality of things. Or, goes back to everything I've been involved in. It's not pretty. Like taking a human life is not pretty. Using force on someone is not pretty. But sometimes it's necessary to protect yourself and the community from these people. Because you kind of look at it, military versus civilian side police. Military, you're like, hey, this is your AO. Your enemy's that way somewhere. Police, hey, you've got this community. There's people that are around that are doing damage to this community, but it's up to you to go sniff them out. Oh, but if you mess with the wrong person, then Joe Schmo on the city council is going to try to mess with you. Oh, if you mess with the wrong person, they're going to file a complaint on you. Oh, if you pull over the wrong guy for the wrong reason, X, Y, and Z.
It's a hard job, man.
And I love my job. Like, even with all the nonsense that's gone on, all the stuff that I've been through, like, I love my job and I love the work I do. And we need more people that are in the job for that and not for a paycheck. Because like you said, when the standard starts going down, when the standard goes down, the quality of the applicants goes down. I mean, this isn't trying to be mean to anyone I work with or anyone that's been recently hired, but it's true. Yeah.
It's just reality.
It's just correlation. Like, the more you pay people, the higher quality of people you accept. Like, it's all a cycle. And so I think getting back to what your initial question was, is that I think the fix to it is police leadership having some cojones and being like, hey, what my officer did was right. What this guy did to him was wrong. I stand behind my guy. And you have people that are willing to work for $80,000 to work for a guy like that than to make $90,000 to work for someone that's going to throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
And
I bet that department in Florida has no problem finding officers.
I doubt it. And I've talked to a guy or two that work over there, and I ask, like, is that just all a show or is that the real deal? And they're like, no, like, he's the real deal. Like, people want to work for him. And
so why wouldn't every city council across the country want to hire that? Find that guy.
Because from what I've seen,
politics?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to, is because politics has a lot to do with how you make people feel.
It does seem almost everything's been polarized.
Yeah.
Everything. So if you support that and you're not on my team, then I by default have to not support it.
Exactly. And it's,
so I think defund the police came out. Like, really? Yeah. Really? You just want to get rid of them all?
And as soon as that happened, I said, because Minneapolis kind of set it off. I said, as soon as it happened, I said, I cannot wait to watch them bite their tongue on this. And then I saw Austin start buying into that crap. And then I saw, there were some other cities peppered around the nation that kind of bought into that crap. And it bit them in the butt.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't satisfying to watch in the sense that I enjoyed seeing communities go through that. But it was satisfying in the sense to watch all these political leaders have their foot in their mouth and look like a bunch of idiots.
Well, it's just a smaller scale of what just happened on the federal scale with the election.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we now that they didn't win, you're seeing the roaches scramble for the shadows.
Yeah.
And somehow people are still supporting him.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just the polarization, right?
Yeah, and I don't even
blind loyalty of things is insane.
I think we're to a point now where it's not even that they're supporting him as a person, because, everyone has their faults and he's a very polarizing figure.
Totally.
But they support the things that he's trying to do for the country and the things that he's trying to stop from happening to this country. And again, as a police officer, I think he is our best bet for being able to get back to policing in a way that's effective.
Well, the direction that the whole nation's going was unsustainable.
Right, exactly.
It was absolutely spiraling down the drain, and we have to stop that at some point and somehow. And that's hopefully going to trickle down. I hope. into the states and into the other departments where a lot of people for a long time have been afraid to speak out.
Yeah.
And been afraid to go against their city council or to go. But now that people they're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Like COVID really, they fucked up hard because they took everyone who was on the middle ground and they put them into one pile. And now all the smartest people are over here having been fucked with and having been sabotaged or having been publicly humiliated or attacked or told to shut up or stifled or deleted off of social media, or all of the smartest people in those rooms are now together going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And fuck those guys.
Exactly.
And so it created this dream team of people that beforehand, I don't think were as polarized. They were just seeking truth. But in that, they were ostracized and demonized and are sick of it. And so I don't know what the answer is other than maybe what's happening.
Yeah. And I mean, and I try to, whenever I think about larger, like, macro issues, macro sociological issues like this. I have a bachelor's in sociology, so I like to think about these things.
Yeah,
and it has helped me immensely in my career.
I bet.
But I like to look from everyone's perspective, because on the flip side, people who maybe don't have, I don't want to say people that can't think for themselves, that are people that have a tendency to kind of jump on the bandwagon and not do their own research. From their perspective, it's like, okay, we have this loud, obnoxious Republican coming in who's talking about like letting the police do their job. On the other side, you have communities, minority communities that have historically been ostracized and over-policed and things of that nature and treated poorly by police departments. Like, there's no getting away from that. It's a fact. It happened. But when they see that coming in, they think that we're trying to revert back to that. And it's not that we're trying to revert back to that, but I think that everything in life kind of ebbs and flows. And so up here you have, like, you know, over policing and 70s to 90s basically. So, but I think that we've dipped down. I think the flow has dipped down. So, and it's so far gone now to where we're tying police officers' hands and we're cutting criminals loose to wreak havoc on the city. I mean, we had our homicide rate, it's dropped significantly in the past few years, but we had 1 year recently where we broke the record from a homicide rate that we had in the 90s, whenever gangs were rampant in our city. And that was like during the time after COVID where everyone's kind of like, everyone wants to be a social justice warrior and all this crap, and everyone wants to defund the police. And like, there is a middle ground there. And like I was saying before, Grady Judd, he's got it figured out. He says, you're not going to come into this county and terrorize my people, but my deputies aren't going to terrorize my people either.
That's awesome.
And that
with
is
a
a
two-party system,
take.
How do you land in the middle? That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
right? And they believe that the over-policing is coming because the political opposition tells them that.
Yeah. And they scare them into thinking that.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, we had one of our city council members after my second shooting, they had like a whole city council meeting about it. And she was talking about like how the community's scared and this, that, and the third. I mean, you know, and like, I'm not mad at anyone in the community for being scared. Like, a lack of knowledge can be fearful at times, but I think I just wish people would like think for themselves and seek out facts before they have some knee-jerk reaction.
Well, there's a problem with how to do that, because when it happens, you're snatched out and stuck at home.
Yep.
And the videos aren't released, and nobody knows anything other than this guy got shot by the cops.
Yep.
And there's a whole like buffer zone where everyone's left to speculate, and there's no consequence for whatever it is that you say, because this is just what you think might happen, right? But there is a narrative that sells ratings.
Yeah. But even whenever there are police departments that kind of not jump the gun, but whenever they put information out quickly for the public, there's still going to be people that you cannot please.
Sure.
From the time that my incident happened, 17 days later, the state agency had put out a full briefing video breaking down what happened. Stopped him because
that's pretty fast, I think.
Quick.
17 days is legit.
We always make a joke. If the state agency is investigating you, you're either going to get arrested in 3 weeks or you're going to get, they're going to release something in 3 weeks explaining.
Yeah.
But they broke everything down. They circled in my dash cam. They circle the gun in a red circle. Clear as day. People are like, that's not a gun. That was a cell phone. And even when people try to logically be like, he set the cell phone down, you saw it on the body cam, he had another cell phone. Like, some people you just cannot please. You cannot get them to believe the truth right in front of them.
And then you've got to concern, or at least consider, what's that person's actual motive, because they don't really care what happened. They're most likely a paid activist or a family member that's just emotional and doesn't want to believe that, they're loved. Because I'm sure you saw the man. They still see the 5-year-old who they bought a truck for. Right? Yeah. And that's in the eyes of every parent and every aunt or uncle who watched someone grow up, and then regardless of, the circumstances, they loved that person.
Yeah. And I empathize with them. It is hard.
Fuck yeah.
But there's also people who just, when situations like this arise, like you said, they seize it as an opportunity. One of his, from my second shooting, one of his distant cousins, came up from Houston and was just, trying to rally the troops and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't even know what's going on. You don't.
There's an opportunity there.
Yeah. And then you have another one of his family members or friends or whatever. He was saying, oh, I have 6 years of law enforcement experience. The dude worked in a jail for 6 years and he was a CO, which, nothing against COs. I have the highest respect in the world for COs because I couldn't do that job. I don't think you could pay me enough to do that job. But a CO is not.
I don't want to mop all the jellyfish off the shower.
A CO doesn't know what it's like out on the street doing stuff. Yeah. And so he was trying to pipe up like he knew what he was talking about. And I was just like, it was all entertainment to me because everyone's like, oh, don't read the comments. It's going to drive you crazy. I thought it was hilarious because they just have no clue. And, obviously it wasn't a big enough, high profile enough thing for people to send in paid agitators or anything like that. But
Al Sharpton didn't show up?
Yeah, no. Ben Crump's the next up.
Ben Crump? I haven't heard about him.
He's been on a few cases locally.
Okay.
But we had a guy, he filed a civil rights lawsuit against the department, and he said that one of our officers had beat the crap out of him after stopping him on a bike. And it was all on dash cam. And I don't think the guy knew it was on dash cam, so he was just trying to make a buck. And Ben Crump's a big name guy. It was a civil rights attorney. And they post they talk about the lawsuit and they're about to make all this money, and they post a picture of the guy's face all skinned up. You watch the dash cam video, he's trying to run from our officer. He hits a curb and face plants into the concrete. And so I think.
So he lost credibility for backing the wrong guy.
Yeah. And not doing his due diligence, maybe. Yeah. But again, protecting people's civil rights is a good thing.
Sure.
That is a good thing. It is a noble thing. And they should be upheld.
We need them.
Yes. We need civil rights.
Totally.
We do. And America's one of the amazing places where you get civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same token, I think a lot of these civil rights lawyers kind of got blinded by making a buck, that they kind of got wrapped up in the hoopla of every case is a good case for me. And I mean, you're always going to have your Al Sharptons and people like that who are just going to be inflammatory no matter what. But you got to get down to the meat and potatoes of the thing for each individual incident and be like, okay, what happened here?
Yeah.
What actually happened? Why did it happen? And that the mainstream media is no help.
No, I think the media is quite culpable and responsible for pretty much most of that.
Yeah.
And that's where you need those police chiefs and those sheriff's deputies or whatever to, when those things happen, don't tell people what to think. Just tell them, we're going to find out. Yeah. Give us time to figure out what happened and we will tell you.
Yeah.
Don't go doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
wait till you have a reason.
Right. If you're going to do it, at least have a
legit,
decent reason.
Totally. But if you come out here and you burn the city down, and then I have to release a video in 3 weeks that shows he tripped on his fucking bike, you're going to look like dumbasses, and then we're going to arrest you all for being for burning the city down, right? Like, and so do yourself a favor and let the diligence happen. Yeah. And make sure you pick the right ones to support, because we do need civil rights. We do need people that are protecting us, because we've seen it can go both ways. There are bad officers out there, and we've got to squash those guys and be very careful not to squash the good ones because we're just eager to make an example, because you're going to lose a lot more.
That's a lot of what was going on, because I even recognized it with my stuff. If it doesn't fit the narrative, and we know what the narrative is, it's not making the news.
Yeah. They know what sells ratings.
I can attest to that, because all 3 of my incidents have been black gentlemen. There are the shooting that happened after my second one barely made a news cycle. There was no hoopla about it. And you know why? Because once they found out, by they, I mean the powers that be that kind of push these narratives, once they found out that the officer involved was also black, it's like the wind in their sails is gone.
Yeah.
And
which is really like, why is just the race issue so, I don't know, profitable? So
I couldn't tell you. I wish I knew.
Inflammatory. I mean,
I don't know, because even like the people I work with, like the city I work in is a majority. It's a majority. I think it's like, it's definitely a majority black city. The police department's majority black, and like I love most of the people I work with, but again, your police department needs to be a representation of the community that you're serving. So you still have 1 or 2 that think like all the white cops are racist and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I've dealt with that before, not directly, but, you know, just hearing through the grapevine of certain things. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's a hard jungle gym to climb. It can be a bizarre thing. It really can. But
man, what are some of the other stuff we were gonna talk about? I know
my first shooting.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I was just talking about how, you know, if it doesn't fit the narrative, it's not making the news. So the first guy that I shot was black, but the reason that it didn't get as much attention was because, so that one happened like really early in the morning. Our police chief at the time resigned that morning, like 5 hours later.
So because of that? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was already planned.
Oh.
He was already resigning that day.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened. It was just coincidence that it happened at the same time. So that was like my saving grace to why that one could fly, not under the radar, but fly with the regular speed of news cycles. But that one, I had actually arrested the guy before. And man, dude's a dirtbag. Let's just leave it at that. He's a dirtbag. I had arrested him about a year prior. I pulled him over in a car. He was like 20, 21 at the time, 14, 15-year-old girl in the car with him. Told me they were boyfriend and girlfriend, said they were going to a hotel to get away for the night. Well, yeah, this dude's a piece of crap.
As an officer, did you know of her age?
No, I found out. She was lying to me. But I mean, again, great class, you know, and I hadn't taken it yet, but I'd been taking similar classes. You just learn.
Yeah.
And the more you're thrown into it, the faster you learn it.
Yeah, it's a language.
Yeah. And so I stopped him, and kind of going back to Craig's class, the reason that what brought my attention to him was I was in the neighborhood. I'd just gotten wrapped up on a call. So I'm sitting in the neighborhood, and down to the left is a main thoroughfare to the city. So I see a car, and he starts turning down the road, sees me in the middle of his turn, keeps going. So I'm like, I call that a clue. So I get up behind him. He's got like no tag on the car, like nothing's right with the car. So I stop him, start talking. The girl looks real young.
Get him out. He's pimping her out, or?
No. We'll get into it. Okay. Yeah. So they seem to have, based on talking to them, they seem to have a pretty established relationship. Like, it was weird, very weird. Like I said, he was 20, she was like 14 or 15. So I ended up hooking him for, crimes against children charges, and
because they admitted that they were going.
Yeah, they admitted that they were in a sexual relationship and all that stuff.
Did she seem in distress at all?
Mm-mm. But another layer to it is that her mom wasn't cool with it, and so there was like a protective order in place and all kinds of stuff that kind of led to things going that night. Okay. So go to the date of the day that it happened, a couple months later. So a year or so passes. One night I wake up. I was off that night. So I wake up at like 7 p.m. At this time, I was working from 9 p.m. till 5 in the morning. I was graveyard shift in like one of the most violent neighborhoods in our city. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was great. Like I said, I love my job.
Yeah.
I still look forward to going to work every day, even after 6 years and being in an office. But I wake up, it's like 7 o'clock. I'm like, I'll go work an extra shift tonight. Show up, go to work. I'm like, I had like an hour now. Yeah, I had like 2 hours left on shift, and we get a call. So this is the address. Lady calls in. I'm at this address. This guy, names him, is creeping around the house, stalking my daughter. It was the girl's address, the dude's name. So I knew who it was. So I'm a really big proponent of trusting your sixth sense. I don't know why, but I was sitting up with like 3 other officers. And they're like, hey, you got that? And I was like, y'all come with me. Like, this might be something. Because I had previous knowledge of this guy. Now, he had never given me anything to indicate that he would ever try anything.
Because he was violent?
Yeah, nothing. It just seemed like he was kind of creepy and was like fooling around with little girls.
Yeah.
But something in my heart said, get some people with you. So this is like your typical urban neighborhood. It's perfect square blocks. So I came from the south. I coordinated. I had one come from the west and one come from the east. And so our old patrol cars were nice because you could turn your headlights off while you're driving. Our new ones don't do that, unfortunately, which I think they should just change the wiring because it's a really big tactical advantage for us.
Absolutely.
And but anyway, we sneak right up on them. We all turn our headlights on. My partner, she was coming from this way. She turns up because it was a corner lot. And on the north side of the house, there was a driveway, like on the back side of the house. And so he had pulled up in there, and come to find out, he had stolen the car like earlier that day. So my partner pulls up. I watch her turn in front of me. So I'm like really close to the intersection. So I kind of speed up. And then as soon as he sees her, she turns her lights on. He backs out real quick and comes head on at me. So we're like head to head. At the last second, he's about to hit me. He cuts and turns down the street. So like it's on. So we get in a car chase, and I was laughing. I was like, gosh, you're an idiot. But on the way to the call, a buddy of mine had actually wrote a domestic violence report for them earlier that day, or no, a couple nights prior. He was like, hey, just letting you know, I wrote a report. They said that he's always got a gun on the front seat of the car with him. It's like, cool, thanks. I forgot to turn my radio back to the main channel, so I start calling out the pursuit on the off channel that's not monitored. So I'm like, no one's talking back. So I'm like, crap. So I key back down. So we're going through the neighborhood. He turns up and he's coming to a dead end. And I don't think he knew the area very well because he's coming through the neighborhood and there's a dead end. There's a guardrail and it's a railroad behind there, like railroad tracks. And so he kind of pulls into the ditch, but he doesn't get out of the car and run. I'm like, okay, like something's up. Like this isn't right. So my partner had just told me he's always got a gun, and he stops and isn't running. So my first thing is my windshield's about to be Swiss cheese.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's about to be a firefight. That was the first thing in my mind because like, why are you not getting out and running? Because up until that point, at that time, I had been on the department about 2 years. I'd been in plenty of car chases. Like when we get to a certain point where you don't have anywhere else to drive, you're gonna run. Mm-hmm. So he did that.
Done.
Yeah, hair on the back of my neck stood up, and so I get out of my car because to me that thing's like a rolling coffin. Like if I'm gonna die, like
the biggest target, right?
Yeah, if I'm gonna die, I'm at least gonna make it out of my car and put up a fight. So he's looking around, seeing where I'm at, and I'm out of my car giving him commands. He backs his car up. So I'm like here. He's like this, perpendicular. He starts backing his car up like he's going to drive away. So I'm okay, well, I'm not about to get run over by this guy. But I was already too far away from my car. Like I couldn't get back to my car. And so I'm like strafe walking sideways, trying to get out of the road. Because like you can't create the deadly force situation and then shoot the guy and be like, oh, I was feared for my life.
Yeah, you step in front of his car. He tried to run me over.
You can't jump in front of the car and be like, oh, I feared for my life.
Totally.
So I'm like,
he's coming right for us.
So that was in my mind. So I'm like strafing out of the way, trying to get out the way. And he's like slow rolling because my lights are on. He can't see well. And he's like looking, and he sees me. I'm like, okay. He makes eye contact with me. And I wasn't worried about a gun at that point because I could see both of his hands on the steering wheel. So I knew, gun probably wasn't in play at this moment.
Was yours drawn?
Yeah, I drew out as soon as I got out the car and I was giving him commands. And so I'm strafing. I make it over to the grass. Well, he starts rolling forward, but he's like going real slow. And something in my mind told me to just look at the wheel well. Because I was like, okay, he's probably about to go. We're probably about to turn around and be chasing through the neighborhood. I said, just look at the wheel well to make sure that that's the way he's going. Less than a half second after I glance at the wheel well, I see the wheels cut at me and I hear the engine. I'm like, all right, this is it. And I hear that engine rev and it happened so fast. The last thing in my mind was I'm about to shoot as many times as I can before he hits me. Because it wasn't a matter of if he was going to hit me, like he was going to hit me. And, and so I shoot, I get 3 shots off. Like my last shot I take as he's hitting me and it like goes down into the dash. But he
did hit you with the car.
Yeah. So I go over the top of the car, thankfully.
Holy shit.
Yeah, thank God. Cause
not under it.
Yeah. And we'll get into that in a second. Cause there's a reason that I didn't get sucked up under the car. That kind of goes into, having mental drills. But so I don't know what happened, but I popped up like nothing had happened. Like my gun went flying and somehow it landed right where my hand was at. Like not on my hand, but like 2 or 3 inches in front.
Wow.
Picked it up, grabbed it. My adrenaline was going. I wasn't hurting or nothing yet. After he hit me, he crashed into a fence, into a house. Or he hit the fence and he was like in the front yard of a house. And he had been hit, so he was like freaking out. And so we go to the car and he actually had a gun in between his legs that I didn't see. He wasn't reaching for it or nothing. He wasn't a threat to us anymore. So, but I was pissed off. And so I pulled him out of the car and I want to put my cuffs on this guy. So I cuffed him up and then my adrenaline started dumping. And dude, like I felt like I got hit by a truck. I thought my hip was broken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like.
Yeah, now you feel it.
Yeah. So I'm like, that was my first one. And so my emotions were kind of high. Like I had to work on kind of getting my breathing down. I mean, it's probably similar like the first time you ever kill someone overseas or something. It's probably a little more impactful on you than the 100th or 200th time that it happens. Yeah. Can be. So I went over, I like punched my patrol car because I was like, I guess I was mad that he had made me do that. Because people like, those crazy folks that think like we just come to work just wanting to shoot somebody and we're all gung-ho. Like that's not the case. That's the last thing we want. Not only because we're not out there to hurt people, but I don't want to be sitting at the house for 6 months because Joe Blowover is an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, go be an idiot by yourself. Don't involve me.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to that mental drilling thing, the reason that I didn't get sucked up under that car that night, so it kind of goes back about 1.5 years. So one of my partners that was with me that night, about 1 year prior, she got carjacked. Her unit. She got carjacked out of her unit.
Wow.
By some crazy chick. High on PCP.
So a female officer got carjacked by another female.
Yeah. That was some crazy lady. She had like flagged her down, asking for, I think my partner saw this lady in the road or something and was getting out to make sure she was fine. Like it wasn't right. It was like 10 at night. She was like, something's off. And so she got out to try to help her. So all I hear is my partner, she's screaming on the radio. And she can't get out. So dispatch is like, hey, her GPS is showing her here. So I pull up and the girl is sitting in the driver's seat and my partner's trying to get her out of the driver's seat. Well, the girl gets the door closed right after I pull up. And so as I'm stepping out of my unit, she guns it and hits my unit. Well, the force slings me out into the road. Well, I've got another guy coming to try to help. So I'm like trying to make sure I don't get smoked. And so yeah, and it's kind of funny because me and that guy are pretty good friends now, and that was his first night cut loose by himself.
Oh shit.
He ends up chasing one of our cars through the neighborhood, ends up watching her get dog bit, and this lady was so high, she got dog bit. Skinny lady, like 110 pounds. She was just lifting the dog up, just staring at it like it was nothing. That was his first night cut loose. But after that happened, you know, whenever scenarios happen like that, you think, okay, like, how am I going to respond to this next time? Because not only physically do you want to be ready for stuff, but mentally you want to like make sure you're sharpening yourself. So I was thinking like, okay, next time if I have a car coming at me and I don't have something protecting me, because I had my whole engine block protecting me. And so she actually like kind of glanced off she hit the engine block, backed up and like kept going. And so I was kind of like, you know, next time, what would I do? So one of the things that I drilled in my head is like, okay, when I'm about to get hit, I'm going to turn sideways, or I'm going to turn and try to have my back facing it so that my legs don't get broken and sucked up underneath, so that I get hit this way and I just kind of go over the top. Well, that's exactly what happened that night on my first shooting. I took my last shot like this.
So as the car was approaching, you turned backwards to it so that...
I took my first two shots, and at the last second, when I knew that I was about to get hit, I turned. And I made sure that my legs weren't about to get broken and I get sucked up under the car.
Did you try to jump or anything just to make sure?
I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Because that was also part of
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I jump, so at least get over to the grill.
Yeah.
Then I'll ride the hood, hit the windshield, and maybe have a better chance than getting... it also depends on the vehicle, right? Is this a low vehicle or a high
And thankfully, it was a sedan.
Yeah.
And so that helped. And like...
ankle breaker.
Yeah. And training. Just, I mean, whenever you drill stuff like that in your head, they talk about muscle memory, like doing stuff like automatically whenever high stress situations happen. It's the same mentally. Like if you tell yourself that, okay, in this scenario, I'm going to do this, there's a good chance that that's going to happen. And because I remember after I got in my second shooting, the one when we were fighting with the gun, I called one of my academy instructors and I thanked him for very specific things that he taught us. Mm-hmm. He taught us, you're not shooting front or back, you're shooting silhouette. Because I shot that dude in the back 5 times. And if I had the Ferguson effect in my mind and not the fact that I shoot at silhouettes, he would have been able to get that trigger pull. And 31 bullets would have come out of that gun.
Glocks have such a high rate of fire when they're full auto. You could dump that 30-round clip or magazine
in a second or two.
Yeah, literally.
And we don't shoot at silhouettes. Another thing that they taught us is that, I'm sure you all got the same thing, action's faster than a reaction. There was a drill that we did in the academy, and they actually have a Glock 18 at the academy that they use for the demonstration. It's super sweet. They've got like a Tommy gun, something like that too. But the drill he does is like, okay, like he has a cadet online with his gun out ready to shoot, and he's facing backwards without his gun drawn. He's like, as soon as you see me move, you need to see how many shots you can get off, making them think they have a chance. And so someone can be facing away from you, draw their gun, and get a couple shots off on you before your brain can even comprehend that that's a threat and have enough time to respond. So we're in the nature of this job, we're already at a disadvantage.
Oh, for sure.
And so one of the things they train is like, you don't get yourself into that situation where you're having to hope that they're a bad shot. And so that was another thing I specifically thanked him for. I was like, thank you for teaching us that, or else like, it could have been different.
It reminds me of like the 21-foot rule or something like that, where they can close a distance faster than you can draw and engage. And
that's true. I've never had anything like that with someone with a knife. But we did just get some pretty sweet new tasers, and they go out to 45 feet now, which that's going to save a lot of lives of people with mental health issues. Basically, and the mental health thing is so complex and it's so difficult because I feel like society, whenever they can't figure out how to fix a problem, they make it the police's problem. And that's what's happened with the mental health situation. We're not mental health professionals. We're there to protect life and limb. If I see someone running at me with a knife or about to harm somebody else, we're trained to do a certain thing. And it's not talk it out. It's not, at that point, like there's no de-escalating. Now, if it's kind of a standoff situation, yeah, de-escalate all you want. But you can't let that Ferguson effect take effect when it's too late.
It's tough, but
it's
you're
hard.
right.
And so,
right.
Do you know who, have you ever heard of Solution Point? So Joe Smaro and I forget the other guy's name. They're both former San Antonio police officers. And they started this company called Solution Point, and they they started this thing called crisis intervention training. So what it does is it basically liaisons like mental health professionals with police officers in cities to like train them on certain things. And, this behavior might mean they have this going on and this is how you can respond, or it might be a different situation. But that's like one of the best classes I've had, because it's not your regular mental health training. And I am trying to plug their class because it's probably saved a lot of officers' lives and a lot of citizens' lives.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal class. And, you hear, you're going to in service and you think, oh, mental health class, like this is about to be stupid, something dumb. No, like they're the real deal. And it's because they know what they're talking about. They've lived it. They've experienced it. They started the mental health unit at San Antonio PD.
Okay.
And so we were one of the first agencies that they pushed it out to and kind of demoed it on. And it's phenomenal.
Has it helped you?
Yeah, it definitely has. There's definitely been situations where, I have used many plays in that playbook.
Yeah.
And I've never been in a situation where it saved me, but I've been in situations where I feel like it saved the person that was having a crisis.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about at the end of the day. And this kind of goes back to another thing with like police leadership is whenever a class that amazing comes along and some kind of training that amazing comes along that can truly change the trajectory of people's lives and outcomes, you also can't throw it all on your officers that like, this is the way. Because I see CIT as it's a tool. It's not a save all.
Sure.
And whenever Joe and Solution Point first came in, our agency loved it, but it was because I think initially they thought like, oh, this is just the save all, like this is gonna fix all our issues with mental health. And like, I think it's very important in any kind of training, because whether it be mental drilling, whether it be Craig's class, whether it be a mental illness class, like it's a tool. It's not a save all. But I can attest that whenever you can join all those little tools and pieces of your tool belt together, it can save your life. And it saved mine twice.
That's awesome.
So, I can't say enough about how important training is. And I'm no physical specimen. Like, I'm not in the best shape of my life. I'm not a poster child for fitness or anything like that. And it's hard to stay in shape as a cop. But physical is very important. But mental is very important too.
It is. And, it's something that I'm glad that you're in a good place and that you're not struggling. I do think that there's a degree of it that doesn't happen until you stop.
Right.
Because when we're in it, we have to hold it down. You need the other officers to do their fucking job, and they need you to do your job. And it's really easy as men, and I'll just say that because I am one, to compartmentalize and take something and stuff it back because my responsibility to my team supersedes all of that. Yeah. And I'm not going to be perceived as weak in their eyes.
Soft or...
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's a real thing. Yeah. And so we hold it in and we do our job and we just push on, but that stuff doesn't go away. And it does build up. Okay. And I have guys sit in that seat almost every week that once they've gotten out are telling the story of how they spiraled. And it comes out of nowhere. They don't understand what's happening. and they don't understand what to do with it. And they often start with a bottle. And what helps me sleep, what helps me just feel better right now, whatever this emotion is, I need to stuff that and put it somewhere. And if I can numb it away, I will. And then suddenly that I numb at night before I go to sleep turns into I numb in the morning when I first get up.
It's a vicious cycle.
I'm fucking numb all the time.
And then you're on pills, and then you're awake all night. You're not getting any sleep.
And
it's vicious.
And then you're super fucked up. And because there's a whole big pharma sitting there waiting to get another lifelong customer.
That's a whole other can of worms. Dude.
And you're fucking with people's serotonin, and you're fucking with people's dopamine levels, and you're sedating them, and it's all an effort to take an emotion that they need to process so they can put it down and stuff it back down. And it doesn't fucking work. And it hit me when I left the NSA and I lost all of my friends. Like I spent more time with the team than I did my family. Yeah. And I always wondered, like, what the fuck's all these guys' problem? Like, we all bitched about the Marine Corps. We couldn't fucking wait to get out. Right?
And now
like,
that's all you want.
Dude, yeah. Like, guys get out and it's their whole identity now. When I'm like, dude, we were a total shitbag.
Yeah.
Like, you skipped out on every working party.
I was nothing to write home about.
You got busted down multiple times. You tried to get out of the deployment, but now you're wearing the hat. You're covered in tats. Your truck's covered in stickers. And so I'm glad that there's programs, and I want to encourage whoever's listening, and you as well. You're 6 years in, you got a whole career that's coming, and all this stuff is building up, to be intentional with putting that stuff down. And when it comes up, I know it's hard. I spoke with Dutch and Giovanni about it. It's like, if you speak up that you're having a problem, like, you could not be allowed back on the force.
Yeah. Literally.
And they don't want that. Like, I just need some help to deal with whatever the fuck's happening right now, because I don't fully understand it. And it's like, well, yeah, you've been doing this shit for 10 fucking years and you've only stuffed it. Yeah. Like, you need to take a couple of months off and find a way to analyze it and work through it, because the emotion ain't gonna go away.
Yeah, for me, like, outlets are the best way to get rid of that crap. Because you'll have to talk about it eventually, but totally. Like, working out, praying, going to church, hanging out with friends that aren't cops, or that aren't in your field, can be immensely important. Because with the incidents that I've been involved in, it doesn't like bother me. Like, I can sleep at night. Like I said, I don't feel bad about the shootings. The taser is a little different situation. Like, I don't feel bad for what I did, but I feel bad that it ended that way, because a taser is meant to save someone's life, to keep them from themselves. Yeah, because he ended up having a knife in his pocket. I forgot to mention that, but yeah. And so I felt worse about that one. But as far as the shootings, it's like, I don't feel any kind of negative feeling about it, but it's always going to be part of who I am.
Sure.
Because
and it may not even be what you did, but even just the backlash after it, the fear it would do. Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to go to prison? Like, those are real fucking fears. And that shit, you do carry it. And it's,
and a lot of times I think people don't realize I don't like juxtaposing military and law enforcement, because it's different, but there are similarities. I think that the idea of, like, getting in a shooting or getting in a firefight, it's really romanticized, and I don't like that, because then
terrifying in real life.
It's scary. In the moment, it's horrifying. But there's, like, your run-of-the-mill police officer that never fires a gun, they see far more traumatic things than me having to shoot somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, that's traumatic for me in some way, shape, or form. Like, I know it'll probably manifest itself on the back end some way, and I'm just gonna have to figure it out when that happens. Yeah. But I've seen, like, far more traumatic stuff that I can't unsee. Yeah. I had one of the worst things I ever saw. If we got time.
We might. They give us a few minutes.
Okay, gotcha. One of the most traumatic things I ever saw. I get a shooting call, and they're like, "Hey, we got a 10-month-old baby shot in the chest." Well, this was about a year and a half into my career. Kind of rewind. The first shooting I ever worked was the 2-year-old baby that got shot in the head. And it was a convicted felon playing with a gun that should have never had it. And so I'm headed to
stuff that shouldn't happen.
I'm headed to this call, and I'm like, man, like this can't be happening. And I'll never forget, it was a beautiful night. It was like 65, 70 degrees outside. Had my windows down. I was running code. The scream that I heard from that dad, he was standing out front screaming. I could hear his scream over the sound of my sirens.
Yeah.
And those things are loud. And that's one of those things like I'll never unhear. You know, thankfully, you know, I run in the house, start poking fingers in holes, basically, and the baby ended up surviving.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't know how.
That kind of pain is hard to forget.
Yeah.
I saw that in Iraq. I watched the father of a guy cry, and then I heard when the mother found out.
Yeah.
And
just that wail.
Oh man, it's awful.
And it's it's hard because on the one hand you can feel his pain, but on the other hand I'm like, what are y'all into that y'all are getting y'all's house shot up? There were over 70 bullet holes in that house. It wasn't random.
Wow.
You know, and they had lived there for some years.
That child ate the consequence.
Yeah, and I ended up stopping the dad like 2 years ago, and I saw the name and I was like, oh, like I know this guy, and we got to talking, and he was like so grateful, and so that really feels good. Whenever you get like legitimate thanks, that's nice. I had a lady, I don't know how she found my phone number, but there was a lady in an apartment complex. She was an assistant manager. She got stabbed over 20 times, and me and another guy happened to be the first ones there, and we were able to plug her up enough to get her to the hospital to where she survived. And like, you know, you don't get into the work for the accolades, but whenever you have the actual victim come to you and track you down and find you and be like, thank you. Like she called me on Thanksgiving and Christmas the year after and was like, thank you for allowing me to be with my family.
That's the human experience right there.
Yeah, that's awesome what because it's about. A lot of times we feel like we have to be robots and inhuman. And that kind of like brings it back down to earth, and it's kind of like,
it's real people y'all are helping too.
Yeah, this is why you did this job. You may not get this feeling as much as you thought you did.
Yeah,
but it's worth it. And again, I love my job. I love what I do, and I truly can't see myself doing anything else. So,
Anthony, thank you for coming in and sharing your story, man.
Thanks for having me.
You guys have a hard job. You have to hate the world enough to want to change it, and love the world enough to know that it's worth the work.
Yep.
And that's a really hard line to walk.
Very.
And I appreciate what you do, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in.
Oh yeah. Thank you.